views expressed on this program are those of the hosts, guests, and callers, and are not necessarily those of this station, its management, or other advertisers. You're listening to Transformation Talk Radio.
This show's audio was via a Skype call.
Get fired up for Spirit Fire Radio with your hosts, Dorothy Riddle and Steve Kramer. Get ready to shine the light on universal spiritual principles and uncover ways that ageless wisdom can guide you in cultivating consciousness in these modern times. Bring purpose to your life through practical spirituality and add to your awareness with Spirit Fire Radio. Now, here are your hosts, Dorothy Riddle and Steve Kramer.
Hello, listeners. Welcome to Spirit Fire Radio. My name is Steve Kramer. It's a delight to be with you and to be joined by my co-host, Dr. Dorothy Riddle. Hello, Dorothy.
Hi, Steve. Glad to be with you.
It's a joy to be with you, as always, and really exciting to move forward with our month of March. We're talking about energies of the heart. You may also know these as ray energies. Both Dorothy and I come from schools of esoteric studies where there is this field, this lifetime of study called the rays, and they are 7 energies that exist and actually that are present in everything we do, in our expressions, in the world around us. We utilize these energies. We are a part of these energies. And energies of the heart, we talked about love, wisdom 2 weeks ago, and last week we talked about harmony through conflict. And this week we're going to talk about an energy called idealism. It's also known as devotion. So idealism and devotion, this is an aspect of these heart energies, or you could call it the Ray 6. Dorothy, anything you'd like to add to that about the rays, perhaps?
I think that it is really interesting to think about the fact that we have energies that very much radiate from the heart in its broader sense, not the physical pump that we think of, but the very vital organ that, in a sense, manages our entire body. It's not the brain so much as the heart. And so to think of those energies, and then next month we will offset this or supplement this with the mental energies. So I'm looking forward to that as well.
Just since you brought that up, I will just say I will often talk to my partner, Tim, about these. And I said, Tim, what do you think of the difference between energies of the heart and energies of the mind? And of course, I came straight forward and said, energies of the heart are all about relation. You know, I get very excited by that idea of relation and magnetism and attraction and all that the adventure or the unfolding and what that reveals. And those can be seen in 2, 4, and 6. And I said, so energies of the mind, and I don't even remember what I said. And straight away he said, these are the energies of manifestation. I thought that was really wonderful, because what that says, listeners, as we talk about dividing this up between heart and mind, and I find that interesting as well, heart and mind, it's really like an in-breath and an out-breath. It's this beautiful rhythm and this back and forth that creates a lovely rhythm. And I find we manifest, and that creates relationship. And then from that relationship, we manifest again and create relationship. And it's this, that is what the creative process is all about. So all of these energies work together. They play off each other. We have access. We actually have all of these energies within us and use them all of the time. Some we utilize with great efficacy. Some we're very comfortable with, and some may not be so familiar to us. So as we talk about this idea of idealism and devotion, that might sound really wonderful to you, or you might have some resistance to it. So it's just wonderful to explore it and see how you relate.
Well, I just want to add one thing, Steve, to that image that you created of the manifestation, the relation, the manifestation. Isn't it interesting that it's not all of the heart energies and then all of the mental energies? They're interwoven, right?
Yes.
The
Yeah.
heart energies are the 2, 4, 6. The mental energies are the 1, 3, 5, 7.
Yeah, it's quite lovely. It's quite lovely. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And necessary, if I must say so myself. So
you want some quotes?
I would love a quote.
Okay. So I have one from Desmond Tutu. We inhabit a universe that is characterized by diversity. And I think that's particularly important to keep in mind when we talk about the Ray 6 energy that can zero in on just one right way.
Yes.
And then the other is from Albert Einstein. He wrote, "Unthinking respect for authority is the greatest enemy of truth."
Mm.
And I find this interesting because in the Ageless Wisdom teachings that I'm familiar with, there is always this thread of question, test against your own moral compass.
Yes.
Does this resonate? Don't just take it blindly because somebody that you respect says it. Yes.
This is going to be an interesting conversation. I can tell already. Yes. I love that you set it up with almost like a warning, like keep this in mind that diversity is really important. And I'd love if we could just talk about that a bit, because it reveals quite a bit about this energy of idealism. If you know somebody who's idealistic, goodness, how do you feel around them? Sometimes you feel a bit put off, or do I measure up, or oh no, what's next? Because we see them as sort of perhaps we may characterize them as being unforgiving of anything other than their ideals, right? Or we may think of them as looking down on anybody who's not at the level that they're at. So there's these ideas of the pedestal. Even the guru is very much this idea of devoting oneself to the guru. So within this energy of idealism, there's a lot of aspiration. There's looking up toward, and there's this sort of height to it, right? And we have to remember, in you're saying that we inhabit a universe that's characterized by diversity, that each one of us in our own right is in our own process. We all have our the space in which we are relating to the world from, and we have to keep that in mind. And so we may be idealistic about something, and we may know something very well. We may have very sort of concrete ideas about the way something should be done, about the way something works, or about our own sense of truth and the choices in which, the ways in which we choose to lead our life. But we have to watch when we put that upon another person and expect them to be either doing it your way or rise to your sort of level of awareness, because it just doesn't work that way. We're all in our own process. So it's important, again, I love that you brought that up right at the forefront, because that's a trapping of idealism, I find.
That's right. And so if we think about this energy from a positive perspective in terms of what it contributes to us, to me, Steve, it gives this ability to be focused in a one-pointed kind of way to a particular ideal, a particular belief system, and we need to make sure that it's inclusive rather than exclusive. And that devotion, that one-pointed devotion, hopefully is to the common good. I just want to comment that, in some of the political rhetoric of the last few weeks in the United States, I found it interesting that someone, and I apologize, I don't remember who said this first, when talking about the Green New Deal and how important addressing climate change is, what they noted was that it's an aspirational goal. It's not a specific regulation, right? But people are used to thinking more concretely in terms of laws and regulations. But if you start to think of it as aspirational, this is where we want to head. There's a lot of different ways to get there. Then you come at it from a different perspective. And I think it's Race 6 that is that aspirational energy.
Beautiful. And it is that you said that one-pointed devotion. It's kind of that eye on the prize idea, that this is the goal, and that idealism and devotion gives us the energy to stay moving toward it, to stay the course. There's actually quite a bit of force to the energy of idealism and devotion. Even if you think about those, feel the energy of those words, there's almost a heat, there's a real energy, a real force to them. And so I would agree, it's that which propels us and lifts us. It is aspirational in nature. I think that's a beautiful word. I always think of the ladder, of a ladder. If you've ever seen an image of a ladder that just goes up and up and up into infinity till you can't even see the end, it's that that idea of moving upward and the energy to get there. So beautiful that, and to be so devoted to something like Mother Earth and to the green movement, that right there is so much this wanting the best for all of us, this ideal, to have the ideal that we all deserve, and by all of us, meaning Earth herself, to live in harmony and to live in a way that is sustainable, and that is creative as opposed to destructive. So the energy that holds that ideal and that holds a devotion to that ideal is that energy of the sixth ray. Yeah.
And in its purest form, it's the energy that moves us from being self-centered to being selfless, to being focused on service, that helps us shift from an exclusivity focus to an inclusive focus. And that is a dynamic that can be very powerful, is very powerful if we tap into it, as opposed to just staying with a kind of my way or the highway.
Well, and imagine if everybody's working toward that. Why it's called the common good, right? That if we all tapped into this pool of energy that is working toward this ideal, there's a lot of energy there. You can actually feel this sort of heat, that it's a force. And we all experience that. You just think of all the excitement behind Bernie Sanders, when the last election, that it just felt like this movement, this revolution. It was a lot of that, just really having a vision for the future that felt really good to a lot of people. They tapped into it, and they were really devoted to that cause. They were a force in and of themselves. But Dorothy, we've got to go to a break soon. But when we come back, I think one trapping of that, and you mentioned so beautifully that it's from being self-centered to selfless, is we get really caught up in the cause, and then it seems like there's this loop that comes back and just fuels our passion to the point that we can actually become a fanatic. And we certainly see that so much in this day and age. So we're going to talk about that a bit as soon as we return.
Welcome to the Dr. Pat Show, Talk Radio to Thrive By. I am so thrilled to be talking to all of you. We have got talk radio for all of us. Are you ready and willing and able to accept all of the abundance you can muster up in your life? Yeah! Check us out, thedrpatshow.com, transformationtalkradio.com, transformationradio.fm. Oh my goodness.
Do you know how powerful your thoughts and beliefs are in determining your experience of your life? Is it really true that simply by changing some of the words you use in your day-to-day language, that you can change your life? I'm Megan Edge. Join me on Playing on the Edge, Radical Change with Ease with my co-host Dr. Pat on Transformation Talk Radio. I look forward to seeing you there.
To find out more about Megan Edge, visit her website at meganedge.ca.
Are you ready to branch out? Take a leap of faith. Then tune in to Get Rooted Radio with Erica Gifford Mills on TransformationTalkRadio.com every second and fourth Thursday at 9 a.m. Pacific to equip, empower, and enlighten yourself. Erica will energize and excite you to power up your passionate dream that sets your soul on fire. So, get fearlessly ready and get powerfully rooted in your yes to live it up, love it up, and let it go to ignite the life you deserve. Visit GetRootedRadio.com and tune in.
Stuck in a roundabout of dysfunction? Learn how to speak your truth to power with host Dr. Kathy Obear. Create real change with smart tools and smart strategies. No frills, no fluff, just life-changing conversations to help get you where you want to be. Extend your reach and become an agent for real change with Kathy Obear. For more information on Kathy and her work, please visit drkathyobear.com. That's drkathyobear.com.
Did you know that when working with the law of attraction, it's beneficial to share your longings with a supportive tribe who can assist in maintaining accountability and hold the creative space for your desires to manifest? I'm Autumn Seibel, host of Golden Otter Radio, where the metaphysical meets the mainstream. Join me each month at the new and full moon to plant your seeds of abundance, consciously tend to your intentions throughout the lunar phases, then harvest the fruits of your co-creation with the universe in my Lunar Manifestations members-only forum. Your tribe is waiting for you at goldenotter.us.
Are you ready to broadcast your brand ideal with the latest in information technology? Bioresonance software distills your brand ideal or intention and enhances your core internal organizing principle. This has a tremendous impact on your organization's alignment as well as the behavior, satisfaction, and the retention of its employees. Your physical business structure can unfurl, opening up the possibilities of creating an energetic presence for a brand even ahead of its launch. Check out JeanetteWolf.com for more on its signature frequency branding.
Hey, welcome back, listeners. Thanks for sticking with us or joining us. If you're just joining us, we're talking about the energies of idealism and devotion, these sort of heart-centered energies and the way they play a part in our day-to-day. Before we go any further, I'd love to talk a little bit about the School for Esoteric Studies and Spirit Fire. We're two organizations that have come together in collaboration to create this radio program. Dorothy, would you like to say a few words about the School for Esoteric Studies?
Absolutely. Thank you, Steve. The School for Esoteric Studies is an educational nonprofit that provides training to people who have a spiritual discipline that they wish to deepen. You can find out more about our what we offer by way of training at esotericstudies.net. We also have a number of group initiatives. Our intentional intergroup collaboration initiative is what is played out in this collaboration with Spirit Fire, which we're really delighted with. And if any of you belong to organizations that would like to collaborate with the School for Esoteric Studies on some project, please let us know. We'd be very interested. I want to just mention one other initiative that we are about to launch, or we are in the process of launching. Every year we have a subjective group conference, which spans the first three full moons, known as the Three-Linked Festival, the full moon of Aries, of Taurus, and of Gemini. And our topic this year is From Suffering to Joy, the Science of Redemption, which I think is actually very relevant to our discussion of Race 6, Steve. And any of you that would like to join us in this conference, you'll find information at esotericstudies.net. You're more than welcome. And we look forward to hearing from you.
Wonderful. Thanks so much, Dorothy. And thank you to the School for Esoteric Studies for endeavoring to produce this show with us. I am here on behalf of Spirit Fire. We also are an educational nonprofit. Our mission is to cultivate consciousness and to educate people on the importance of spirituality in their day-to-day lives. We do that primarily through our meditation practice called the Practice of Living Awareness. It is an online meditation practice. You can find out more about that at spiritfire.com. We deliver new meditations, guided meditations to your inbox throughout the week. We do rounds of meditations. It's a 14-step program that is a combination of a mindfulness practice and a vipassana, or an insight practice, bringing clarity to the mind, clearing away the distortions, Dorothy, as you like to say about meditation. I love that. So we've got a meditation center in Western Massachusetts and all kinds of good stuff going on our website. So you can visit us at spiritfire.com. Dorothy, just before we went to the break, we were talking a bit about the sixth ray, or the energy of devotion and idealism. And I mentioned that some of the trappings of this, as we see expressed so much today, are fanaticism. People who are so devoted to a cause that it produces an intolerance of anybody who would think different, be different, act different, and oftentimes are actually caught up as become the object of what am I trying to say? Can you help me out? You know what I'm trying to say.
Well, what we're experiencing is a lot of violence as a result of that kind of fanaticism and intolerance. That anyone who's not thinking the way I am, believing the way I am, acting the way I am, they're not okay.
Yeah, it's like you're either with us, you're with us, or you're out. You are either with us or you're the enemy. Right. So as we talk about common good, it's just out the window, because the adherence is really to my way and to the ideals that I hold.
And this has been the primary energy of what's astrologically known as the Piscean age, which is gradually giving way to the Aquarian age of more group awareness, more focus on the common good. And Steve, I have to say, I can certainly notice and be critical of the various forms of intolerance that I see around me. I need to remember that when I was young, and I mean, this can happen at any age. For me, it happened when I was in elementary school, and my parents were missionaries in India, Presbyterian missionaries, and there was an evangelical Christian preacher that came through, and I was absolutely mesmerized, would be the best word. And I took everything that he said to heart, that there was only one right way to pray, that there was only one right way to study the Bible. He gave me this picture that I hung in my bedroom, and I was very, very, very devoted.
Yes.
I put all of my will into doing exactly what he said I should do. And my parents were very, very kind, because I was extremely critical of them. That they weren't doing what I was doing, so they must be wrong. They must be not just wrong, but bad. And it took a while for me to move beyond that and see that they're actually, and I'm grateful for the fact that I met many people from many different faith traditions who I saw were wonderful people that I respected, and I had to question that intolerance that I had developed. So that was just one individual, me. But what we're seeing now is worldwide some of the most publicized forms of white nationalism, white supremacy, that kind of absolute bigotry, hostile bigotry, and the violence that accompanies it.
And nationalism, this idea of, you're one of us or you're not. But Dorothy, I just want to personally say I really appreciate you bringing that to speak about that experience, because we can all relate to that, to looking up to someone and so cherishing really very deeply their words, their ideas, and wanting to emulate that. So I appreciate the trappings of you expressing that it turned into, being critical of your parents because they weren't that. And that is such a human, it's such a human experience and a human response. And I believe it's just all part of the process, and we all just have to be aware of that. And that's, at the very beginning, you mentioned that our universe is characterized by diversity, and in warning that when we're thinking about devotional energies, we really need to remember that everybody has the opportunity to be devoted to an idea, to a way of being, and it might not be yours. So one thing I think is interesting that it brings forward is often with this energy of idealism and devotion, it can feed the ego. Don't you agree? This idea of me, mine, and what can be taken away from me. This whole white supremacist that, you've got to really fight and look out for what is yours. And anybody that's not that, they're actually the enemy who's wanting to take something away from you, which is from such a place of ego and limitation and fear. And you can see how this energy, if misused, really leads to some dangerous, very tragic situations like we saw in New Zealand, just a couple weeks ago. Really sad and really quite clear, this idea of taking an ideal to the extreme, to the point where, those that aren't with you actually need to be eliminated. So it can be a very inspiring energy. During the Piscean age, we saw the Christ, the Buddha, the guru, the teacher, the leader, that the one who we look up to follow. And those energies are changing into becoming Aquarian, where it's a dialogue amongst ourselves. We seem to have moved away from that need, or even the efficacy with which we can work with that guru energy, because it tends to blind us too much. It tends to have us lose sight of the whole picture. So we're moving into a new way of seeing, and I find that energetic of the sixth ray, or of devotion that's left over, is expressing in this sort of white nationalism and even nationalism, in terms of, we've heard Trump say so many times, basically, we can work with you, but basically working with you means it's our way or get out or suffer the consequences.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And so, I just would like to add two words to the whole devotional idealism energy, and that is respect and dignity. I mean, we have that embedded in the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, that everyone is entitled to respect. Yep. Everyone is entitled to be treated with dignity. And so the force, what you've talked about is the force or the intensity of the six-ray energy, can be so helpful in terms of helping us take some difficult steps towards an ideal that we believe is important, as long as we treat each other with respect and dignity. As long as we don't expect everybody to just be just like us.
Yeah. Because doesn't that feel so, I mean, I know it feels so good to me to think that I will be devoted to, allowing the inherent dignity of each human being I come into contact with to surface, to arise, to express. That sounds like such a wonderful way to start your day, right?
Right.
And it's the idea of being, an ideal, or being devoted to this idea of harmlessness or inclusivity, as we've been talking about so much. But Dorothy, before we continue, we've got to go to a break. We'll be right back after these words.
Did you know that all of the shows on the Transformation Radio Network are available as podcasts to stream or download?
Really?
Check us out. Go to transformationradio.fm. We have business shows, spiritual shows, energy healing shows, and pretty much everything in between. Something for everyone, guaranteed to inspire, educate, and transform. We are transforming the world, one listener at a time.
Dream on, fly high, and live adventurously on The Laura Meeks Show. Tune in each month on Transformation Talk Radio as host Laura Meeks guides you in finding your unique gifts and bringing them to life. As a certified life coach, speaker, and veteran bomber pilot for the U.S. Air Force, Laura knows how to follow a dream. She is ready to support you so you can dream on, fly high, and live adventurously. For more information on Laura and her work, visit flyhighliving.com.
To find answers to life's questions, you need to look within yourself. Dr. Glenna Rice brings your questionable conversations on Transformation Talk Radio each month. Tune in each month for insight into how you can live up to your full potential. Dr. Glenna is a physical therapist, certified Access Consciousness, and Access Body Class facilitator. How does it get any better than this? For more information on Dr. Glenna Rice and her work, visit glennarice.com.
Living Lighter Radio with Jason and Patricia. We have an ecosystem approach to your life. Tune in weekly every Monday at 1 p.m. Pacific on Transformation Talk Radio as we, Jason and Patricia, discuss what's truly holding you back. We offer you the tools you need to reach your goals and at the same time be living lighter. For more information about Living Lighter, visit www.livinglighter.org.
Welcome back, listeners. We are talking about the energies of sorry, Carter, got to do that again. I said love, wisdom. All right. Welcome back, listeners. We're going to continue our discussion on idealism and devotion. Dorothy, before the break, we're talking a little bit about ways in which this energy might be misused. I know there's a couple of things I want to add before we move on. Would you like to start? Anything you'd like to add?
Yeah, I wanted to just comment on the fact that this energy, at its purest, is focused on service and what we can give, and that's the whole focus of idealism and devotion is supposed to be focused that way. When it gets distorted, it gets focused on what we can get from others.
Yes.
It becomes very personally focused, very self-focused, and that, I think, is when it becomes problematic.
And I mean really problematic, right, Dorothy? I mean,
yes.
It is really where we see this force. We've been talking about this energy having a force and having heat to it. When you really see intolerance at its worst, it is shocking. It is. Mm-hmm. It is so destructive in nature. And so you have to realize that this idea of idealism and devotion, it's powerful stuff. And we just need to be aware of it as an energy that exists, that is a part of our universe. It is a part of of our consciousness and a part of the energy that creates worlds and experiences within those worlds. So we need to learn to use it, and we need to know to watch out for its trappings. So all of that said, when we give ourselves over to a cause in a very dedicated way, we can sometimes also forget about ourselves and our own well-being. We sometimes see people that will just run themselves ragged because they've just got to give it all for the cause, and they forget about themselves. And so it's just a little thing I wanted to mention as a way that this energy gets misused. It's over devotion, so that we become not more self-centered, but so selfless that we actually start to, not even be effective as an individual. So just thought that was important to bring up as well.
Well, and you remind me of, and I don't remember who produced this, but there was a documentary about the integration of schools. I think it was actually schools in Boston. And when the first black children were approaching the school, and there were protesters who were absolutely outraged. And if you can juxtapose pictures of their faces next to pictures of chimpanzees who are furious, who are really, really angry, they look exactly the same.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Intense, scary, right?
Yeah, exactly.
But
and if you think about I keep coming back to what's happening at the southern border with asylum seekers who have the legitimate right to be seeking asylum and are treated really like objects or animals at the border so often. And this attitude of government officials that they hadn't even thought about the consequences of separating children from their parents, or devising any way of being able to reunite the children with their parents. Just that complete thoughtlessness, to me, is another example of that, complete disregard for the humanity of another person.
Well, and I would also say heartlessness, Dorothy. Also, when you think of that situation, or you call it to mind, you can see that those people are so firmly actually stuck within the boundaries of their job and what their job is intended to produce. And I can't put those words. I mean, who could say what it is for each one of them? But a sense of duty, if you will, that the sense of interconnectedness, or even using the mind in a way to experience what somebody else is experiencing, to just think of what it might be like for them, or to just have some empathy, some compassion, or even take a look at what you're doing on a moral scale. It goes right out the window, because you are only seeing the ideal, and everything that follows, the order, the following of orders. That's it. It's all you see, and you become numb to everything else. It's sad. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But Dorothy, I also thought of that energy, in you saying the students, the black students going to an integrated school for the first time, and people screaming in that energy and violence. Imagine the force and the force of goodwill, and the force that you would have to, the heart energy, you would have to sort of protect yourself with. What's fueling that? What's fueling the heart energy for those individuals to walk through those picket lines and go to school? It is a knowing deep in the heart and deep in the soul that what they're doing is right, and that they are devoted to the ideal of equality and to basic human rights and dignity and to education, to all of those ideals that they see as human ideals, and realize that it's necessary. It's necessary that I move through this line, that I do what I have to do to get through it. So you see that even in that one situation is that energy present, that sixth ray or ideal and devotion, but being used and expressed in very different ways.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So, Steve, what this brings me to is that, if we're going to make good use of this energy, one of the really critical aspects is that we use it to enhance our awareness of what matters to other people.
Yeah.
That we use it in that inclusive way to try to broaden our thinking, broaden our what's been called our circle of care. Who it is that we pay attention to, who it is that we care about, that we that we broaden that out as much as possible, ideally to include everybody, because we are all one on an energetic level.
And that comes through a dedication to concepts like inclusivity or harmlessness. I mean, indeed, we need to become aware of everyone's point of view, but you could only get there by knowing deep down, deep in the in your truest of true selves, that we are all a part of the one life, and being dedicated to that and honoring that. And that is the energy that will allow you to see other people's points of view, even if you, don't agree.
That's true. And Steve, as we were preparing for this program, we were talking about the fact that examples of distortion of this energy, the intolerance, are much more visible to us than examples of the positive use of these energies. I wonder if you could share with our listeners your insights on that.
Well, what's tricky about this is this energy of devotion and idealism, as you said so eloquently, that it is a move from selfishness, that it's my idea, this is my ideal, to actually being an expression of the ideal itself. And therefore, there is a humility to it. And so you can realize that if when we look out into the world, you say, and Tim was saying this to me, you just don't see it very often. How do I know what this really beautiful expression of the sixth ray or of idealism and devotion looks like? Because I just don't see it in the world. I see the opposite. And what he's speaking of is so many people who are self-serving and have an agenda. And the agenda is really my agenda. It's feeding the ego. We see them because they're putting themselves out in the spotlight. We see them in the day-to-day, and actually we see the drama and we see the conflict that it creates. And it just so happens that the world we live in loves to bring forward the drama and the conflict much more than the good stories, than the quiet folks who are humbly and in a very selfless way working toward the greater good. They seem to, and often by choice, just be doing their work behind the scenes, because that's how it can be the most, it's really the most effective. And they're so effective and they're so dedicated to the cause, and so much not about them that they're not seeking the spotlight. So you really do have to look for this energy and people who are holding and expressing this energy in the quiet places. In the places where service is being done. It's in the soup kitchens, and it's in the backroom meetings, and it's the people who are on the ground, that aren't the face of it, but are on the ground doing the work, that are often holding that energy.
Very well put. I think also one of the things that to me comes up in relation to this energy is the whole issue of detachment. Which is a concept that runs through many of the spiritual teachings, and that is that we have to be able to release what the end result has to look like. We can be very very passionate about achieving something that is empowering for everyone. But how we get there, what that's going to look like, we need to be willing for many different people's ideas to come forward, not just our own.
It really is a conundrum, right, Dorothy, in that it shows us this very one-pointed direction to head, and we see it, but then we realize there's many, many one-pointed directions that many, many people are heading. So you really have to constantly expand and include and widen and widen and widen. And it's I appreciate so much that you will often, Dorothy, bring these words like inclusivity, and a word that we just don't use often enough. It should be said daily so many times, which is simply to say the word harmlessness. When we bring these energies to the forefront and we become devoted to a word like that, to kindness, to gentleness, then everybody can have their sixth ray object of devotion and ideal, as long as we're all on the same page, that really we have to do so with an emphasis on the common good in a harmless way. Yeah.
Absolutely. Thanks for bringing that in.
Dorothy, we're going to go to yet another break, and listeners, will be back after these words. Hi, I'm Steve Kramer of Spirit Fire Radio, and I believe that meditation changes everything. It leads us in the direction of greater well-being, and that's a fact. I struggled with meditation for years. I understood the principles, but I found it hard to incorporate them into my everyday life. Spirit Fire's meditation practice changed that. It's called the Practice of Living Awareness, and it's taught in 14 steps. These are 14 tools that I can use in any moment, on and off the cushion. Steps like smile, flow, and ground of being support my clarity of mind while I'm navigating the ups and downs of modern life. That's why it's called the Practice of Living Awareness. If you'd like to add meditation to your daily experience, the Practice of Living Awareness is free, online, and it's suited for any level of practitioner. Visit spiritfire.com for more information. And be sure to check out Spirit Fire's meditation retreats in Western Massachusetts. It's all there at spiritfire.com.
Are you ready to shift your current beliefs about death, from debilitating pain and loss? Follow Angie Corbett-Kuiper as she shares that through choice, present-moment awareness, and keeping an open mind that anything is possible, even in death. Tune in to Beyond Proof Radio with Angie, redefining death and loss, every first and third Wednesday at 12 p.m. Pacific on TransformationTalkRadio.com. For more, visit AngieCorbettKuiper.com.
You said forever, you said always. Now you know things have changed, and going back is not an option. It's sudden, devastating, and is like taking a leap of faith. Tune in to From Two to You, Thriving After Divorce Radio, as Sarah Lou's empowerment coach and spiritual mentor reminds you to have faith in yourself. Tune in every second Monday at 10 a.m. Pacific and listen as Sarah encourages you to leave negative stories in the past and move forward. We all need a friend when I do becomes I can't. Let Sarah help as life takes you in a new direction. Leave the guilt and doubt in the past, step into the spotlight, and show the world who you are. To find out more about Sarah Luz, visit sarahluz.com.
Are you ready to embrace your essence and the magic of who you are? Let me, Emily Perkins, hold your hand and walk with you as we go treasure hunting for the gold that lies within you. Tune in to Love Living Radio every second and fourth Wednesday at 7 p.m. Eastern on TransformationTalkRadio.com. For more information, visit LoveLivingHolistics.com.
Welcome back, listeners, to Spirit Fire Radio. We're going to continue our discussion on devotion and idealism. And Dorothy, I so appreciate the wonderful work that the School for Esoteric Studies is doing to bring inclusive social action, those three amazing words put together, to the forefront of our awareness, and that your organization is so devoted to this and asking other organizations to come in and cooperate and collaborate to be behind, to get behind this goal, really, this idea of inclusive social action. And I find that, this is the energy of the sixth ray, this energy of idealism and devotion is really the energy that supports these causes, these social causes. Do you sense that energy moving through that movement?
Well, I think, we talked about this energy as being aspirational. Yeah. And in that sense, it's very much part of what we mean by inclusive social action, because there's so much action needed. It's not going to all happen at once. Perhaps I could just share with our listeners what we mean by inclusive social action, Steve.
Perfect.
This is an initiative. We have 3 white papers at esotericstudies.net on this topic. We're trying to stimulate discussion and ideas on intentional action to stop specific violence in a manner that does not further divisiveness. Because if you fight anger with anger, all you get is more violence. So how is it that we say, no, this is not okay? Because if we don't do that, then we become complicit. So how do we make sure we're not condoning an action by our silence? And how do we do that in a compassionate way that will actually make a difference? And I think it's very much related to this, the energy to do that comes very much from Ray 6.
Yes, absolutely, because you really have to care. You have to care about others. You have to care about all of our well-being, and that then allow you look around and say, I'm not seeing it very much in my day-to-day, or I'm seeing so many examples that, for me, living in this world, I really have got to do something. And it's that energy of being devoted to humanity itself that you say no, or being devoted to righteousness, or to, as you've said, dignity, and to situations that you see harm, and because you simply care, you have to say no. And again, it's that sixth ray is what it says, no, I will do something about this. And as you say, it really is sort of omnipresent in the world around us. It feels like an imbalance of power and misuse of power so much. And I think it is this move, as we've said, from Piscean to Aquarian. The age of Aquarius is upon us. And I think that we're really coming to terms with what is power, or a single person or a single group with more power than others. It really just does not jive with the energetic of the day. And we're seeing very clearly the ways in which it doesn't. And so it feels sometimes like David and Goliath, I find, where, it's that sixth ray energy is what keeps you going and keeps you sort of aspiring to put the energy in and hope that it all comes together, and just keep striving, collecting energy, collecting force, to make change.
Well, and, if we think about the present political situation, just because you have the courage to stand up doesn't necessarily mean that things are going to go your way. I think about one example of this being Congress taking a stand on the president's declaration of a national emergency at the southern border in order to be able to move funds from very necessary projects over to what I would think of as a vanity wall project. But at issue there was the separation of powers, right? The balance of powers that are built in. And Congress has the power of the purse. And so taking the vote, saying, no, this is not a correct exercise of your power, even if there's not enough votes to actually override a veto, it's still important to say that.
Yeah.
To take a stand.
And that right there is a stand in inclusivity. It is a realization that this is a glamour cause. This is a very selfish cause for very few people. And just to say no, that we as Congress, we represent the notion of inclusivity. We are the voice of the people. So, very important. And I wish they would exercise that voice much more. We see where, again, this sort of devotion to an ideal that is a very narrow ideal. We see that time and time again with Congress, where you sort of, it's a head scratcher. How inclusive is this? Really.
Well, there's the whole issue of whether that devotion is to the rule of law or whether it's to getting reelected, right, which is a very self-focused goal. But I just want to underscore this because I think it can be easy to lose hope, or to think that your voice doesn't matter. And even if what you say doesn't stop the violence that's happening, you need to remember the impact on yourself. We've talked over and over again on this program about moral compass. Every time I act in alignment with my values of inclusivity, of treating others with respect, with dignity, I strengthen my moral core. I strengthen the likelihood that I will react in an ethical way the next time around. Every time I don't do that, I nibble away at, or I shred away at that moral compass. So even if we're not going to get immediate results, which oftentimes with social issues we don't, it's still important to stand up and be counted. It's important to, walk in the protest march if that's the route that makes sense to you. It's important to sign petitions that say, no, I don't agree with this. This is not okay. So I just wanted to put that out there, that even if you don't see immediate results, it still is very, very important to take a stand.
To express, to express your truth. And I find that this energy of ideal and devotion, the 6 rays, very expressive. It is very expressive. It is an energy there to tap into that you can almost rely upon in a way. And, I find that as we stand up for human rights, for human goodness, for human dignity, we tap into our own truth. It's there, and it's almost like it's a wellspring. And you find that it is in the hearts of so many people around you. But by standing up and saying no, I think you find that it's almost like the universe has got your back. But there's also plenty of other conscious human beings around you who you will find that share those same values. I mean, may it be so, but so important to be that expression and to say no. Indeed. Dorothy, we have about a minute left, so go on, if you will, just giving you a time frame.
Yeah, I just want to say a quick word that one of the disciplines, at least for me, that is so critical is, a daily review, an evening review, whenever you do it, but just to think through how you've been with yourself and others through the day. Are there opportunities that you've missed to express? Are there opportunities that you took advantage of that you want to replicate that at other times? But just be very aware that this particular energy can be all-encompassing, right? It feels good to be swept up in that kind of devotional focus. You need to be very careful.
Yes, but I love that. It is true. It feels, that's beautifully said. It feels wonderful to be swept up in that, to feel that sense of goodness, to relate to that sense of goodness in others and say that will carry me in goodness in myself and goodness in others. Beautiful, wonderful, positive note to end on. Thank you so much, Dorothy. We're going to start the next month, the month of April, and we're going to talk about what we call the mental energies. And I look forward to that. We'll be back next Wednesday.
Thank you for listening to Spirit Fire Radio. Tune in each Wednesday at 9 a.m. Pacific, 12 noon Eastern for your weekly guide to purposeful living and practical spirituality. Join hosts Steve Kramer and Dorothy Riddle as they shine the light on universal spiritual principles and uncover ways that ageless wisdom can guide you in cultivating consciousness in your everyday life. Add to your awareness with Spirit Fire Radio. To learn more, visit spiritfireradio.com.